What is a value-added tax? How it's recorded? What does it mean? What is input and output tax? What are the rules and regulations which is general in the world and many countries? Be with us till end of the video. This is Milad Akbari from Akbari Education. Welcome to your channel and part 4 of value added tax. This series have 4 parts and it covered in detail the value added tax. What does it mean? How it works? How is the calculation of that? How is the accounting process? And what are the possible rules and regulations behind each of one? But in this part 4, what we're gonna cover? We're gonna cover the recoverable and not recoverable value-added tax, value-added tax requirements, types of supplies and relationship with the VAT, and possible rules and regulations. First of all, if input sales tax is recoverable, the cost of purchases should exclude the tax. For example, if a business purchases goods on credit of $400 plus a recoverable sales tax of $80, the purchase amount should exclude that $80. It means whenever you're gonna record that, you're gonna debit the purchases with the net price, with the net value of $400. And the value added tax also will be debited as the amount you have paid and you want to recover that back as a receivable from the tax authorities or the customer. So the price will be in net amount, and the total amount which you need to pay is including both the tax amount and the net amount. But for the for not recoverable purchases, if the input sales tax is not recoverable, of course input tax is for the purchases you have paid, but it is with the input of the business. When it is not recoverable, the cost of the purchase must include the tax because it is the business itself which must bear the cost of the tax. One thing remember, we cannot leave the businesses to go in loss. Therefore, whenever they pay some tax, but it is not recoverable from tax authorities, they need to include it in the purchase price and consider it as a cost. And in such a case, they can consider that on pricing of their product to recover that tax from the customer, but not in the name of value added tax. So the purchase will be debited by the gross amount, and that gross amount will be payable to the supplier. Value-added tax requirements. First of all, the registration number is required. All sales tax registered businesses will have a unique registration number which is given by the tax authority and need to include that number inside the invoice of the company, and even most of the documents which are related to value-added tax and taxation of the company, it should be included there. The tax point. Usually the tax point is the invoice date as to record the tax for that period. What does it mean? When I should record, or when the company should record the tax of the company? On the period which the goods is delivered, on the invoice date, or the time when the actual payment is done. In most of countries, as per the rules and regulations, it is required that the tax point should be the invoice date. Rate of sales tax. The rate of sales tax on an invoice must be shown, and the rates vary from country to country, and some countries may have more than one rate. Remember, this is the rate which is assigned by the tax authorities by the rules and regulations of the country, and it can be varied. One rate can be there and multiple rates can be there, but the rates should be shown on the invoice. To continue, types of supplies, goods or services, and its relationship with what. Of course, some of the supplies are totally outside the scope of VAT, such as your salary. Salary have different type of taxation. That's why it's totally outside the scope of VAT. Some of the supplies are exempt and which know what is chargeable, and this is also based on policy and regulation of the country, which to motivate or to persuade utilization of such by the customer, such as education, they exempted these things from the VAT. There are other taxable supplies which also depend on the country. As a general, I can say the standard rate supply, zero rate, and reduced rate. Standard rate, this is the rate applicable on most of the products. That's why it's called standard rate. Zero rate, also based on the policy of the country. They assign some of the products to be motivated for consumption as a zero rate. There is a difference between zero rate and exemption rate supplies, exempt supplies. We're gonna cover that. And there are some reduced rates, which again to motivate, they have decreased or reduced the rate of VAT on such products. There are some VAT on them, but on the reduced rates, mostly 5% in most of the countries. If a supplier sells exempt supplies, then that supplier cannot reclaim the input VAT on purchase and expenses. This is the case. On exempt supplies, there is no VAT on both input and output. So there is no claim on input tax they have paid. So such claims cannot exist, whether on output or input tax they have paid, and it's not recoverable again. But for zero rated supplies, if sells zero rated supplies, charge output VAT at 0% on its sales is allowed to VAT register, and so can reclaim any input VAT on its purchases. Now the case is here, there is no output VAT charged, 0% there, but for whatsoever what he have paid to the supplier, he can reclaim that from tax authorities. This is the exceptional case on that. Possible rules and regulations, one of the most concerned area. What is the sales threshold that above that can be counted to go for VAT registration, and below that cannot be counted or is not obliged to go for VAT registration? As per rules and regulations of a country, wheresoever you exist there or you are a resident of them, there is a threshold which says that if your suppose periodically rate of sales increase from that, go and register yourself as a VAT registered company, and below that, that's no obligation. However, there are volunteer bases which some companies, due to their own reasons, can go and register themselves. One of the reasons can be to recover the input tax they have paid. They can go and register themselves to recover that VAT again. Thank you so much for being with us till end of this video. Kindly subscribe, like, insert your comments, and like our videos. And remember, these are the 4 critical videos required for both students and businesses. Remember to share this with your friends. Thank you so much.